Welcome back everybody to the next episode of JAG Woodworking. Today we're going to start with what I think is the simplest beginner project to do, and that's, we've all seen them all over the internet, cedar picket fence planter boxes. We're going to be making these small ones. I'm starting with the small ones simply so that way I can maximize the amount I can produce out of the limited material that I have. And I got simple little blueprint here I kind of drew up as I was experimenting making this first one. So let's go ahead and dive on into it. This is what I have left after making 3 of them out of 2 boards. So you can get roughly 1.5 of these planter boxes out of a singular board. So that's kind of where I wanted to start with this. I mainly wanted to focus on a project that I could use with 1 board because I only have 6 of them. So I wanted to be able to maximize the amount I could produce out of the material I had. So being able to get 1.5 of these out of 1 board is perfect. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our cut list here. You can copy this or you can make your own, kind of adjust the size however you want to do. But first things first is we're going to cut the material down the length. So I'm going to start with these 3 4.5 inch cuts. See you over at the saw. Now I don't have a miter saw yet. So I'm going to be using this jigsaw here that I bought. I'm just going to use this and our square here to get some pretty straight cuts. And then I'm going to use our table saw to get everything cut down to thinner pieces. You can try and do this if you have a crosscut sled or a miter saw or a hand saw, however you want to do this. This is just how I'm going to do it.
Now you want to make sure while you're doing this, you are lining your blade up with your mark the same way every time. While I'm cutting it, I'm putting the blade so that way the edge of it is at the line, so the piece after the cut is exactly what I measured. If you want to do it to where you put the blade exactly on the mark, you can. Just make sure you're doing it the same way every time so that way everything is equal.
Now I wasn't sure we were going to be able to get all 3 of those pieces out of that little scrap, but we made it work. So for now we're going to move on to a new board. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make as close to this end cut as possible, just so we have a nice square end. Next up we're going to cut 2 pieces at 5 3/4. Had to go get a refill on my coffee because of all this hard work we've been doing lately. So now that we got our 2 pieces at 5 3/4, we're going to go ahead and make 2 cuts at 7 3/8. Now unfortunately here, my square maxes out at 7 inches. So I was able to do this for the shorter cuts, so just real quick, boom, 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 mark them out, so that way I didn't have to put this down, grab the tape measure, do all that. If you have a bigger square, good for you, it'll make it a whole lot easier to do this, but you could just use a tape measure, super simple. Anyway, same way you would measure anything else, come over here, mark it. Now you put that down and grab your square. It just takes a little bit longer, so I was trying to reduce as much time as possible. But let's get to it. Forgot to move my coffee. Well, at least after that's it, my doctor can't say that I'm low on fiber. Now that all our pieces are cut to length, what we're going to do is we're going to take our 7 3/8 pieces and we're going to cut these down to form the legs of the box. We're going to get 2 1.5 inch and 2 1 inch pieces out of each of these that are all going to be 7 3/8 long. These are going to be what I'm calling the front and back of the box because it looks the nice when it's solid, big solid piece across it. So you're going to set those aside. Now for these, 2 of them are going to be sides, 1 of them is going to be the bottom. So you're just going to kind of look at them, find which one you think is the unprettiest of them all. I kind of like how the 2 knots on that one look. This knot, yeah, I don't really like this chip out of the corner here. So I'm going to set this one aside to be my bottom. So we'll cut that down later. And then these 2 here are going to be my other sides. Now, since I went through before and I put the markings on the table, as far as the 1.5 inch marks, I can just quickly line this up If not, you would see me do it how I did it before. Just take the tape measure, measure the blade from the rip fence front and back, make sure it's even, and then that's how I would measure my cuts. But by putting these marks down, it makes this part super easy. Now on to assembly, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to start by you want to make sure, because our 5 3/4 pieces are very similar to the thickness of it. The original thickness of the material is going to be top and bottom, and then where we made our cuts is side to side. So we want to make sure that our tops are all lined up, so that way everything is orientated properly. We're going to take one of our 5 3/4 and one of our 4 1/2 pieces. Just spend a little time, make sure the edges are nice and smooth so that way you don't have any burrs getting in the way. Cedar is pretty soft, so I found that if you just run your hand across it, you can kind of pull those off, no problem. So we're going to take our 2 pieces here, we're going to line them up, find exactly how we want them to sit, make sure all the edges look good together. I think we're going to go this way. Yeah, going to go that way. And we're going to take a little bit of glue. You don't need a whole lot, just a tiny little strip. Get that lined up with your edge. Make sure at least one side is perfectly flush, or as flush as you can get it. And we're just going to pop a brad in it. And then if you do one side first, then you can kind of come back and swivel this and make sure your other side is exactly how you want it. Just like that. And then we're going to flip it around. Take our other 4 1/2 piece. Again, make sure everything is orientated properly. So it's going to go that way. There we go. A little bit of glue. Get it all lined up exactly how you want it. Ooh, that one almost came out. You can see the divot there. That one did come out a little bit. It's okay. That should be covered when we put the legs on. So now we're going to flip it over. A bit of glue on each one of these. Find our top, bottom, and sides. Get everything lined up properly. I'm going to focus on this side first. Around. Going to line up what I'm considering the top of the box first. Ooh. That's why you got to watch your fingers. And see, I made 3 of these, and not a single one shot a nail out like that. So now we're just going to take some pliers and wiggle that out of there. There we go. And again, that will definitely be covered up when we put the legs on. So there's the base of our box. Now we're going to start with our 1-inch legs. I found one side is a little rougher, one side's a little smoother. So I like to put the smoother side against the box. So again, tiny bead of glue. Find how you want it oriented. And then when I was putting the box together, I made sure to put all of the nails closer to the outside. So now when I nail this part down, I'm going to go a little bit inside that. So that way I make sure none of them accidentally hit each other. And we're just going to do this all the way around. Now that we have what I'm considering the front done, we're going to move on to the sides where we're going to take our, ooh, that one did not grab on very well. So we're going to put another one in there. There we go. It's okay. If you need to pop a couple extra in there just to make sure, feel free to. So now we're going to take this and we're going to use it to cover up all the nasty edges so that way it looks smoother. And then this way, well, this one will be 1.5 inches. And then if you measure from here to here, this is going to be about 1 5/8 inches. If you wanted to make them exact, you could, and you could just cut this one to 1 1/8 inches. But I found that doing it this way is as close as I can get to even widths on both sides, while making it as easy as possible to cut everything. So do it however you want. And again, I made sure that the screws or the nails in the box were on the outside. The nails for the front and back legs were a little bit closer in, so now I can put one right smack dab in the middle. And then I'm gonna come up here and put this one pretty close to the end. Outside that original nail. And then on the bottom of the feet here, I like to just take a clamp, and that helps to ensure these pieces are as close together as they can get. And then one just right in there. And you're just gonna do that on the rest of the sides.
Now, when I was making these, getting the blueprint all figured out, I decided to go ahead and time myself to see how long it would take. So on the one right before this, it only took me about 30 minutes to do everything. The cuts, the glue, the nails, all of it. So you could definitely knock a few of these out, or just one as a quick project, however you want to do it.
Next step I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start the process of leveling these. So I'm gonna take what I know is a nice flat surface. I'm gonna set it on there, and I'm just gonna push on the corners. So it does not want to move this way, but it is moving this way. So that tells me that these two are high. So I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna take a look at them, kind of line it up, figure out where the high point is. I think I'm gonna go for right here. And then I'm just gonna take my sander, I'm gonna sand a little bit, repeat the process until I have it nice and level. Now that it's pretty level, then the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 4.5 inch piece that we set off to the side, and we're gonna get it cut down to fit into the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is this way, it should be 4.5. So I'm just gonna confirm it is. We didn't screw anything up. So I'm gonna flip it, measure this side, and that is a hair under 4 5/8, hair under 4 5/8. So we're gonna get this piece measured and cut down to fit down in there, and we're gonna get it nailed in.
I'm the kind of person that always wears my PPE. I know the dangers of what could happen if you don't. I know how dangerous tools can be. I used to work in a machine shop. I used to work with extremely dangerous tools. But for those that don't like to wear it or think it's too much of a hassle, here's a reason why you should. Imagine what could go wrong if this had launched up towards my face. Now this is going to be a very tight fit, so feel free to take some sandpaper, smooth down the edges, cut it a little bit smaller. It's going to be what we call a press fit, so it's nice and snug. You just gotta get it in there, work your way around. If you want to use a hammer, you can. Just tap very lightly. And always work around. Don't get one side flush, because since this is press fit, it's not going to be easy to shift it back up. So just work it around, gradually lowering sides. Get it exactly where you want it to be. And then we're just going to put 2 brads on each side to help hold it in place. We got one here. I think that hit a knot, so that's why that didn't go in all the way. So I'm just gonna give it a few love taps. Get that knocked down. And the very last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take a 1/4 inch bit. You can use any size you want. You just don't wanna go super big on it. You can do more smaller holes, but because of the overall size of this, I'm just gonna do 1 hole, eyeball it in the middle, 1/4 inch. So there we have it. Our box is finished. The reason why I went with this size is I wanted something that was more of a decorative use, kind of indoors. This size is big enough to fit generic candles from big box stores like Walmart, Kroger. So this will fit down in there. It's got a little bit of wiggle room, so that way the glass isn't touching any of the sides directly. I've let these candles burn for hours and then come back and grab the outside to pick them up. And they were warm, but not burning. So I don't have any concerns about the wood setting on fire. So we have a nice little tabletop candle holder in your kitchen, and put some like basil or parsley or dill in it. It's a nice little planter box for something small like that. Or if you just want to have like a nice little decorative piece on your desk. So this is something I bought a while ago just because I liked the way it looked. I thought it was neat. It was like $5. I found it online. It's not super high quality, but I use it to keep pens, pencils, and scissors in here and whatnot. So something like this, I could obviously not stick that in here, but put all of the pens and pencils and everything inside of the box, and it should hold it quite nicely. You know, keep everything sticking up just enough to where I can grab it, and it kind of gives it a rustic look. So you can kind of do, you know, whatever you want with it. It's a multi-use box. So that was my plan. I decided to mix it up a bit here, and we're going to put the housekeeping at the end of the video today. So I went ahead and picked up this Hyper Tough jigsaw. It is quite literally the cheapest jigsaw I could find. This was roughly $23. I'm not going to include tax because that's just going to make things more complicated. Even buy an additional blade. For now, I'm just going to be using the one that comes in the box. So later on down the line, this goes for the table saw that I have over there as well. I have read repeatedly and heard multiple reviews that a cheap saw with a good blade is a pretty good starting balance for beginners. So further on down the line, I'm going to get a different blade for that. I've heard good things about the Diablo blade, so probably that, or just whatever I can find at a big box store that's pretty well rated. Same thing for this. I'll get a pretty good blade to put in here further down the line. I'll update y'all whenever I get a different one, but I'm going to add this to our running total for operating costs. Thank you for sticking around this long. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.